Today we're going to cover a very exciting topic that many people have been requesting.
Yeah, definitely. So grab yourself a drink, whatever your tipple is, glass of wine, cup of tea, a beer maybe, and join us.
In this episode, we're going to cover Spain versus Portugal.
We're going to talk about the sorts of things we loved about living in Spain and the reasons why Portugal ultimately won for us. One thing that you may not know about us, but you will know if you've read our blog, is that we used to live in Spain. So we moved to Spain in 2017 and we lived there for a couple of years.
When we lived in Spain, we lived very close to the very famous Costa del Sol in an area called Soto Grande. It's literally one of the most southern part of Europe, so you don't get much more south than that. And if you, it's about 20 minutes drive from Gibraltar, which is essentially just about 10 miles away from Africa.
It's famous for its polo. It's a huge hotspot for polo in Europe. It has the most incredible port. It's beautiful, and we feel very lucky to have been able to live there.
More than just polo, it's also famous for its golf. For example, it has one of the most world famous golf clubs called Real Club Valderrama, which is broadcasted on TV every year for the different tournaments.
It's located roughly 45 kilometers from Marbella, so that's around 35 to 40 minutes drive, and it's around 92 kilometers from Malaga, which was roughly about an hour's drive. If you were going fast, do you think? Or
yeah, if there was no traffic on the toll road, but normally between an hour and maybe an hour and 15 minutes.
So you'll all know about the Costa del Sol. It's a very famous tourist spot for all nationalities and often has a bit of a reputation around the world for badly behaved foreigners.
Yeah, and actually all the way back to I think the 70s and 80s, it became famous for people to travel on buses from Denmark all the way to the Costa del Sol. Because that was their way of getting sun before plane tickets were affordable. So it has a long history for attracting foreigners, and later on also many people that have relocated there, which is what we tried. So what we're going to cover in this video is what we love about Spain, what we love about our experience, and what caused to be the reason of us not living there anymore.
So let's talk about some of the things that we loved about living in Soto Grande, Spain. One of the things that it shares with Portugal is, of course, its sunshine. The weather was absolutely incredible, something which we couldn't complain about. However, it did get sometimes unbearably hot, which unfortunately meant that sometimes in the middle of the day, there were times where it felt uncomfortable. It was very humid, and so there were times where it was easier for us to sort of stay indoors under air conditioning.
Yeah, well, what you have to think of is that, not to complain about the good weather, but we lived there while we had our second son, so we had two very young kids when we lived in Soto Grande. So when you got to like after midday and the afternoon, sometimes it was just unbearably hot for the kids to be out, so you couldn't take them out for a walk, for example, because it was literally 30 plus degrees and it was burning. So even though that sunscreen on, you could just see their skin color going darker.
One thing that we really did enjoy about living there was that there's plenty of properties, really good quality, well-built properties for all budgets and all lifestyles. One thing that we enjoyed there was the fact that there were so many urbanizations there called condominiums here. So it's a shared community where you'll have shared facilities, maybe a pool, maybe tennis courts. You pay a community fee of €100 or €200 a month, and you'll have access to communal gardens, and you'll be able to live as part of the community. I love the fact that, you know, we had friends who lived in communal areas, and we were able to go over and enjoy that with them, and really love the range of properties. We met a friend there who was in real estate, so we had the benefit of having insider knowledge of the property market, and had we have stayed, we were certainly looking at investing there, because there was just so much choice. Just absolutely incredible properties. If you've looked at even Idealista in for Spain, specifically the Costa del Sol, you can be seduced by the beauty of all the range of properties on offer.
And what we find out about urbanizations, pretty much all of them are very well kept. So the gardeners there are literally full time.
Yeah.
They every time something sticks out, they'll be cut back, trimmed back down.
Yeah.
And so there's a great pride into taking care of those. So what you find, and you have to bear in mind, this is just like Costa del Sol and both edges of the coast on that. We're not talking about generally about Spain. Spain is a massive country. We're just talking about the small bit that we lived in.
Yeah.
But what we find there was that the rental market of properties is very well built. So there's a lot of opportunities for a lot of different budgets of a good quality, and it's easy to find properties. We found, at least when we lived there, when we had to find a property there 3 or 4 years ago, and it was very easy for us to find a good range of options that we could choose from, to find what we preferred the most. So in that way, that is easy if you just want to try it out.
We ended up going for a stunning penthouse apartment on the port of Sotogrande, and we had 4 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, and the most stunning balcony. In terms of entertainment, one of the things that we really enjoyed doing was going to beach bars, and we were fortunate enough that there was a huge complex called the Beach, sadly man-made but beautiful nonetheless, and you can go there and enjoy the pools and good music, great fresh food, and lots of beach bars across the coast. And we spent a lot of time there enjoying the cocktails and the atmosphere and the music, and my prawns pill, which I literally, it was like one of my favourite things to eat. So we would, really have a good time with that.
Yeah, well, that's actually some of the beauty of Sotogrande. Sotogrande have its beautiful marina, but it doesn't have massive and great beaches. There's not enough beach for the amount of people that actually come down in the summer.
Yeah.
So what they did instead is up in the mountains, like 10 minutes from the marina, they have then created that massive artificial beach far away from the coast and protected by the wind. So even when the weather wasn't too hot, it was still a really good atmosphere and a good experience of their sort of beach bar beach experience there.
It was a little sad because it didn't get as much attention as we thought it was going to. It wasn't as sort of popular. They invested millions of euros to build this complex, and I'm not sure whether it was the marketing or.
Well, the owner behind the complex, or the company that have built it, also have one of the biggest golf courses. And the golf course in itself is very exclusive, where many of their customers land on helipads. And then they have this beach resort for normal people next to it. So I'm not sure if they didn't want to push the marketing too high on it, or if they just weren't very good at it. But there's some exclusivity on that project.
Life of the rich and famous.
I believe so.
We enjoyed the food. The food was very good, very fresh. Definitely no complaints there. The prices were reasonable also. We found a few of our favourite restaurants and met friends through some of our favourite restaurants. So certainly in terms of different types of cuisine and Spanish food, yeah, definitely top marks there.
And how would you say they did on organic restaurants?
Organic restaurants, well, I think we struggled a little bit with Spanish. No, because we found that vegan.
Yeah. So we had two options in Marbella.
Yeah.
We had the vegan one in Marbella
owned by the organic, the organic kitchen, wasn't it? Or
we had
the organic market. Yeah.
And then we had Owl in San Pedro. And then we had the vegan place in next to Soto Grande.
Yeah, great options, really good options. So definitely couldn't complain when it came to options available if you're if you prefer organic food or you're a vegan. There was definitely enough and lots of biological stores as well. So a really good range of produce in that regard. So
I have one more question for you.
Okay.
On supermarkets, how would you rate Spain? How was it to find things across the different supermarkets?
Yeah, I found it really, really easy once we got into the flow of where, what to get from which supermarket. Typically, we liked Mercadona. We also liked, what was the other one, the big one?
Supercore?
Yeah, Supercore was good. Lidl definitely for their bio range, and that was extending. So in terms of range of supermarkets, I think it was very, very, very good.
That leads me into the next bit, because more than just that, we also had access to, I think, 3 different British supermarkets for all your British beds. So that was a convenience. You were only sort of 20 minutes away from Gibraltar, so you could go down to a Morrison's if you needed to. And then we were about an hour away from the Danish community, which leads us to the next subject. Because one thing that Costa del Sol has is in a part of Costa del Sol is like a large amount of my heritage, Danish people, where we were able to find Danish supermarkets, Danish restaurants, Danish bakeries. So we were able to source a lot of different things directly from the supermarket just because there's a lot of foreigners from many different countries living there. So these sub-communities exist.
Yes.
Good and bad.
So it was easy for us if we want to celebrate and participate in Danish traditions. We always received invites for various holidays and traditions for Danes, and that was lovely as well. So we felt like we could really tap in and keep up.
And in the same way, we didn't miss out on the mince pies at Christmas.
Yeah, mince pies. It's just a thing. I've got a real problem.
An addiction.
I can't believe I've just admitted that, but some of you out there will understand what I mean. Brandy sauce. One thing that we would say was absolutely A-class is the healthcare. We had a private insurance with Sanitas, and we could not complain. The range of hospitals that were available were very impressive, and the level of service, bearing in mind that this was pre-COVID, so there no such thing as waiting lists. If we made an appointment, we were seen very quickly. The standard of English was very good. No major co-payments. We did have to pay for things like if we needed, of course, if you get prescriptions, that's standard, you pay for those. If in one particular occasion when we needed vaccinations for our eldest, we had to pay for that, but I believe we didn't have to had we have gone to another hospital. So all in all, and a couple of visits to A&E, which were absolutely just brilliant. We were seen very quickly within 15 minutes of arriving. We could explain what the issue was. We got seen, and we were out of there very quickly.
And also what the private health insurance, just to finish that a bit, so Sanitas is a part of the larger insurance group called Bupa, which is probably better known. That's the Spanish sort of branch of that. But what that gives you is that it gives you access to a range of different hospitals that they have partnerships with. So literally you could, for like when we needed a pediatrician, we could take one hospital for that. If we needed A&E, we could take another hospital for that. If we needed A&E and like out of hours, whether we couldn't get a good enough doctor or we just wasn't sure we were seen well enough, we could just literally drive to the next hospital and we were seen like straight away. So you have a large sort of flexibility of getting that extra reassurance that you want to get in those kind of circumstances. So it's literally having that Sanitas card is like a wild card to get access to medical professionals. And we were very it was probably the best healthcare any of us have ever experienced.
Definitely.
Across many countries.
Yeah. So if you need your second, third, fourth, fifth opinion, then you can go ahead and have that.
Yeah. You can always just like go in the car, drive for another 10, 15, 30 minutes, and then you have the next hospital that you can just walk into to the next A&E, and they can sort of give you the reassurance that everything is all right.
So we've talked a bit about what we loved. Now we want to talk about some of the other things that we didn't enjoy so much.
Yeah, there's like the reasons why we don't live in Spain today.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll start by saying that we are both very tall people. And what I felt was a sense of standing out in Spain, and I felt like there was a lot of uncomfortable staring, and I found it very difficult to understand because it was sort of staring but not really smiling or warm. It was more kind of hard staring, and it would be to the point where, if we'd go out and be walking around minding our own business, whole tables of people in restaurants would literally point to each other and literally be staring at it. And after a while I thought we'd develop a comfort around it, but I certainly felt an unease, and
And don't get this the wrong way. We also have Spanish friends that we have been having different dinners with and exchanging cultures, and like we've also been trying to integrate that as well. But it's definitely a thing there on the Costa del Sol for us. Sort of and this is again not a Spain thing. It's a Costa del Sol thing. So when you're on the Costa del Sol, you're about 5 and a bit hours to Madrid, and I think you're about 10 or 12 hours drive to Barcelona, which will be the second biggest city. So you're a bit far removed from sort of anything business-wise, digital nomad-wise, or like there's not much. There's probably no startups there. If there's any new business opportunities there, it's either hospitality or property, and it's very much those two sectors. And what you see there is that Costa del Sol is sort of very focused on tourism. It's very focused on foreigners that wants to live there, and in that way, it's almost like it's pushing the Spanish people out, also in price levels at times. So definitely that is also creating sort of a culture of many Spanish people that are not enjoying that these foreigners are not integrating better. You can literally go into whole neighborhoods on the Costa del Sol where people can't speak Spanish. People that may have lived there for like 20 years, have businesses, have employees, and all of that is fully set up. But then they can't literally say a word of Spanish, not even be able to order drink in Spanish. And when they go to the nearest restaurant or the nearest bar or whatever, they everything is in English because those owners are also English speaking. And that's sort of the downside of Costa del Sol, that people don't integrate well. Also because there's not that many business opportunities, so they live off things that doesn't require them to speak Spanish, if that makes sense. And so what we realized in the Costa del Sol, even it's beautiful, it's lovely, and we enjoy the time we have there. It's not somewhere where we feel like there's lots of opportunities, because 5 hours to Madrid, which is the nearest big city, is just too far. So that means on the job side that there's really not that many jobs to be had, also because there's more Spanish people that would like the local jobs, so there's always a stream of people. And that's why we find it a bit different to live relatively close to Lisbon, because at least you have a fully functional city that have a growing startup community, more foreigners that come here to actually open businesses, and what Portugal is doing right there is they have their tax advantage to sort of attract talent and entrepreneurs and people that just want to invest into the country, which is a very positive and warm way of doing it, rather than what we see in Spain, where you just don't have that access, so it quickly becomes either boring or just that you don't have the opportunities to sort of excel there.
And sadly, there's the mentality of some foreigners who think there are simply too many Spanish people in Spain, and that's so at odds with our own personal values.
What we sort of have decided there is that we came from London. There's no coast near London. You have the river going across the city, but that's about it. So what we have decided was we want to be close to coast, so that automatically ruled out moving to Madrid. Furthermore, we had good friends on the Costa del Sol that had moved away from Madrid because it was too stressful, too much commute, too much hustle and bustle there. So we didn't want to go back to that. We were also quickly considering Barcelona, but because at the time, at least, there was a large political instability. So therefore, we just didn't see anywhere in our research. Spain is a massive country, but we didn't see anything in our research that sort of had that pull to us of trying anything else. And also we met many great Portuguese people in Spain, as it's the neighbor country, that literally only were in Spain for jobs, and they loved their country. They really wanted to go back, and if they could get a job in Portugal, they would definitely go back. So we had we had many of those warm sort of experiences from people that just really love their country, which I think is a very beautiful thing when you meet foreigners abroad, that they're so warm about their own country. So, to go on to the next bit. What we also saw in Costa del Sol, which is not so good, was that there's because it's so close to the coast of Africa, it's also being used as for a lot of drug smuggling. So we saw many different car chases of cars speeding up and down of the AP7 motorway, and doing very high speeds, which was very dangerous at times, and we saw, for example, drugs being smuggled in from speedboats and police driving straight after them. We had some different forest fires that the police thinks was started by people that wanted to smuggle in drugs, which was right next to where we lived. So that sort of created a little bit of an uncomfortable,
anxiety,
I would say so. And then there was just some different gang shootings, people being shot in barbershops in Marbella and stuff like that. So it not that we saw too much crime, but we knew it was there, and we knew we always had that feeling that we hope we're not there at the wrong time at the wrong place, because of the risk of that.
And what that created was a bit of a fear. I certainly didn't like driving from where we lived up to Marbella and further afield, just because of the high speeds of some of the cars that were going way beyond the limit, and they'd be weaving in and out of traffic, and it's just it just doesn't make you feel very safe and secure on the road. So that was a worry. And just to put this into context and perspective, we know it's nowhere near the levels of crime in London. However, given the scale of the Costa del Sol, it's a fairly small place. So the ratio of crime to the size of the area was quite high.
This might be sort of a little unfair, but it's just our experiences, so bear that in mind. But we found Spain to be a little bit more bureaucratic than Portugal, and that's also down to that in Portugal the English is amazing. You're able to have full conversations with people in government positions and stuff like that, so it's so easy to get help. It just takes maybe a couple of attempts, but in Spain you're really lost if you don't speak Spanish, especially in the Costa del Sol where we lived. Another very important thing for us is that Malaga Airport, which is the airport that was closest to us that we were using, because Gibraltar Airport is there's not that many flights except just to the UK, but Malaga Airport is a good 4 hours away from both Copenhagen and London, and depending on plane and COVID and all that, then Lisbon Airport is only 2.5-3 hours away to both those cities, so it's a good bit closer to our families. After that day, after a period we had to be in the UK, we sort of decided, we had to decide, do we want to move back to Spain and Costa del Sol, or do we want to try something different? And we had a couple of times been to Portugal, and we had done quite a bit of research because we've been curious about Portugal and why so many people were attracted to Lisbon, why we always knew that the startup community was growing in Lisbon, where there's no startup community growing in the Costa del Sol. Some of the workspaces I went to was with like one other person.
One of the deciding factors for us was to witness the patriotic nature of Portuguese people. Now we've met Portuguese people in the UK, in Spain and other places that we've travelled to, and there's not one Portuguese person that we have met that has ever said anything negative about wanting to move home. It's all warm feelings, and the only reason why they say that they're not here is simply because of jobs. And that is quite remarkable, to have met so many people who all say the same thing. Of course, there's always small gripes here and there. No country's perfect. However, the warmth towards the country by the Portuguese people is really touching, and it's something that has definitely struck a chord with us. Yeah,
and furthermore, Portugal have done a number of things to attract foreigners. So there's the tax advances they've done, not that it applied for us, but it's easier for foreigners to get visa, and it very much since the financial crash in 2008-2009, they've changed that attitude and been more foreigner friendly, and that is an inviting sort of attitude for us to relocate into. Another point is diversity.
So diversity is really important to us. We are a mixed family. It's important for us that our children grow up in an environment where they see people who look like them, who look like mummy, who look like daddy and other family members, and where we feel like we are not standing out. We feel that we blend in quite well, and it's a really nice feeling. And my eldest in particular, who has, because he's the older one, he's seen more and remembers more of life in Spain, life in the UK, etc. And certainly since we've been living in Portugal, he is really very, 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 very happy.
For example, both in UK and in Spain, I was very aware that I was the foreigner, both because my dialect and stuff like that wasn't polished when I came to the UK, and I couldn't speak much Spanish, So I was very aware of that, and because they're so foreigner friendly here, they see it as no problem of having to speak English, and they're just as positive, just as welcoming, just as warm, and make a lot of effort of trying to make sure that they do the best to help us. So that for us is very important.
We've been here on holiday quite a few times. We'd been to Lisbon, we'd spent some time on the Algarve, and actually until we started doing much more research, we didn't realise how diverse the landscapes were here in Portugal and how much there is to explore and enjoy of the country. It's quite incredible, and so that was quite exciting for us. We felt like we wanted to create a life that we didn't need a holiday from. You know, we'd been living in the UK and, you know, waiting for annual leave, waiting for a week or two off work so we could get away, living for those holidays.
Another thing that I really appreciate, so what I've seen in where I'm brought up in Denmark is that I've seen many different people coming into the country and have to sort of integrate. So I appreciate when people do make a lot of effort and try to integrate. And what we've seen both in the other the main other countries we've spent a lot of time in is that there's whole communities of certain nationalities. What we see here in Portugal, mainly in all the areas we've been in so far, is that people integrate very well, and it's not sort of one nationality sticking to an area. So it's very nice to see that people make so much effort of trying to learn about the language and make effort of learning about the culture and really enjoying the country rather than creating these sort of communities sub-communities within the country.
We enjoy the climate here because, as we previously mentioned, often the sun in where we lived in Spain, in southern Spain, got very hot, and here we can enjoy the seasons. So, you know, you can, it never gets too hot. And I think, you know, that's great, especially when we've got young kids. We can get out, even if it's raining, there's always something to do. Museums, for example, where we can drive for half an hour and be somewhere completely amazing and new, or drive for an hour and be somewhere incredible, a beach, we can grab a picnic. Just the way that we live our lives, our attitudes are completely enhanced by being here. And I feel like, I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm more sort of open, and I feel a sense of freedom and natural happiness here. I feel good about it.
Yeah, and also there's just a lot of things to explore. Portugal is a bit different from what both of us are used to, so in that way it becomes an adventure. And there's like so many wineries that do tours and stuff like that we have to go and discover. We're so behind on that, but we've seen many of them, and we need to certainly like dive into that. And in that way, there's just a lot of things that are sort of nature related, and that is nice to enjoy as a family. That we just didn't have in the same capacity in any of the other countries we've lived in.
Definitely, and you know, it brings me on to activities for kids. We are going to make a separate video about that, but the opportunities and activities are endless for kids. So I don't ever have to worry about what to do, where to go, what if it's raining, what if it's too hot. I always find something new to explore, and there's always new things popping up, even on Instagram, for example, or Facebook, things being recommended by people, new restaurants, new bars, new experiences. There's always something exciting going on, and it's just about finding the time to do it all.
Yeah, and then each little village, each little town have its own sense of community. The first time we came to a place like Ericeira, for example, we quickly just whizzed through it, and we said, okay, this is not something for us. We're not gonna spend more time here. And never could we be more wrong, because when we then gave it a second chance, we actually got out of the car, and we could walk around all the old streets, and we could sort of fall in love with that area and see tens, I don't even know, 10, 20, 30 different small restaurants with each of their different, what they're specialized in, whether it's organic food or natural food or Portuguese food or Spanish food or it's tapas or whatever you like. And each of these villages also have maybe 5 or 10 different pastelariums, which I'm probably pronouncing incorrectly. But it's just, there's just, you can just always find something to spend the day on. And in that way it just becomes like, just get out of the car and walk and something is going to meet you.
But to summarise, the reasons why we chose Portugal over Spain is because of the foreigner-friendly policies, because of the diversity, because there's always great things to see and do and explore, because of the climate, because of the startup environment, which is great because we both work in tech, so that's really important to us. And it's great to have the opportunity to get involved in different events going on.
Yeah, and you have Web Summit here that have been going for a number of years, which is one of Europe's biggest startup events. Furthermore, it just really matters, especially in these COVID days, that we're closer to both UK and Denmark. So we don't have to spend as long on a plane when we have to get there. When things finally will reopen again. So is that the main reasons why we moved here?
Yeah, and also if you haven't already, watch our 7 reasons why we moved to Portugal. So some of it will have already been covered in that video, but we wanted to give you a bit more context and flavour, and we had a number of requests to share with you all why we decided to ultimately go with Portugal. But the bottom line is both countries are great. It just depends what you're looking for, what stage in life you're in, and you know there's great pros and cons to both countries. So if you are trying to decide between the two, if there's an opportunity for you to spend time in both, then you know we'd highly recommend that you do that.
Yeah.
Do as much research as humanly possible. Make a list of all the things that are important to you, your non-negotiables and your nice to have, and talk to people who've lived in both countries.
Yeah, and if you haven't already been to Portugal and Spain and they're just sort of getting on your radar, then try to see if you have a chance to visit both and get your own feel for it, because this is just our opinion. We're a young family. We have certain preferences, and that's how we've just chosen to live our lives. It's just our experiences that we've chosen to share, that hopefully will give some of you some perspective or something to think of when you're visiting, and sort of stress test our what we've been through and what we think of it.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found it helpful, and we'll see you in the next one.